Why would you look at the light? I should have been out here doing photography tonight, not doing a boring talking heads video. Yeah, tonight's topic, photography competitions. Serious face. Must be serious here. Not that serious, no one's died here, it's photography competitions at the end of the day. But I was a little on the fence, to be honest, about putting this video out because if you follow me on other social media, you might be aware of a blog I'd put out on this subject, which has gone a bit nuts on Twitter. And it goes into a bit more detail over what's happened this year with UK Landscape Photography of the Year. But on the flip side of that, I thought, not everyone who watches these videos does things like Twitter. So a lot of what I'm saying to you here might be brand new information. And also just around the wider discussion of photography competitions as a whole and whether it's a good idea for you to enter them or not. Hopefully some of the information here might give you a better idea of what to expect and what you might get out of them. But we'll get the headline out of the way first. So this image on the screen here, this was taken in the Isle of Harris in January. This is a top-down shot of Sealy Bost. This was named overall runner-up in UK Landscape Photography of the Year this year, which should be a happy, positive experience, given that this is the biggest landscape photography competition we have in this country, and it gets about 70 to 80,000 images, so it's quite a big deal, or it should be anyway. If only someone had bothered to tell me. Now, I don't want this video to turn into a woe is me video. More, I'd like it to highlight a few things, and hopefully some of what I'm saying here can be taken on board. But not only that, just to highlight that this has happened to other people, and in one case possibly even worse than myself. But I'll get mine out of the way first. So the first I knew of this even happening was the night of the awards do itself. A fellow photographer messaged me on Facebook and he said, oh, congratulations, Stu, looks like you're overall runner-up this year. And I thought, I don't know what he's talking about. I got the rejection email a month ago. I thought he was taking the mick. So I sends him one back and I said, I don't know what you're talking about, basically. So he sends me another one and he said, no, I'm at the awards do now and I've got the book on my lap here, and he sends me a picture of my image. So I looks at this and I thought, well, I wish someone had bloody told me, because I could have been at that awards do. And I feel like what should have been a fairly significant achievement has almost been kind of taken away from me a little bit. And it would be easy to feel sort of quite bitter about that. Now, I've been fortunate enough in the past to have had a fair amount of success in that competition, so it's, without wanting to sound sort of blasé about it, it's not quite the be-all and end-all for me as it maybe used to be. But nonetheless, it's a significant achievement, and I certainly would have liked to have known about it, but I wasn't told. And really, given the size of that competition and how much sort of a song and dance is made about it, to not tell the overall runner-up is a bit of a clanger, and it isn't good at all. Now, I have spoken to someone at Landscape Photography of the Year personally, and I must get this out of the way that I have absolutely no problem with that person. I hold them in the highest of regard and respect, and some of the errors that have happened this year, I certainly don't place it at that guy's door. I think more than anything, I think a lot of these mistakes have been organisational mistakes that really should fall on the head of the organiser of the event. And that side of it has been really disappointing, to be honest. I haven't heard a word on that front. I'm a big believer in life that how you deal with mistakes says an awful lot about you. And these mistakes that have happened this year are really quite poor. And there hasn't been any official statement from Landscape Photography of the Year about some of these issues that I'll get onto, which has been really disappointing, to be honest. So make of that what you will. But I do want to highlight a couple of other cases here. The first one is arguably more shocking than my own. A guy called Andy Gray, who's a fantastic creative ICM photographer based in the Northeast. He's actually got a YouTube channel, which I'd highly recommend you go and have a look. I'd say he's kind of the reference point for that type of work in this country. Does some absolutely beautiful stuff. And he hadn't entered Landscape Photographer of the Year for a lot of years because he didn't felt there was a category that fitted his style of work. This year they brought in a new category, which I forget the name of it, I'll put it on the screen here. But he thought, oh, I'll give this a go because I feel like it, you know, fits with my style of work. So he ended up getting a couple of images commended as well, which was absolutely fantastic. One of them are commended and one of them are highly commended. He ended up in the same boat as me in that no one told him. So he first found out on the awards night itself as well. Someone had tagged him in the Facebook Live. They were doing like some kind of streaming of the event. So he was pretty cheesed off. But not only that, they've gone a step worse with him. He has since found out that neither of his images have actually been printed in the book, which I can only think is another administration mistake, because it's always been the understanding that if you're commended in that competition, no matter what level you're at, your image goes in the book. That's part of the whole point for a lot of people of entering is that kudos of seeing your image in the final book. So he's in the rather bizarre situation of having two images, one highly commended. He's likely to now receive a book, a complimentary book, which is something I'll get onto in a moment, and neither of his images are actually in it, which is absolutely astounding, to be honest, and a real kick in the teeth for Andy, having not entered for an awful lot of years. And the book issue is something that's rankled with people for a long time. Normally in most photography competitions, when you enter, it's understood that if you are awarded in that competition, your image automatically goes in the book and you get a complimentary book of it. That's kind of how things should be done. Now, Landscape Photographer of the Year, for some bizarre reason, has always had this weird sort of rule that only highly commended images and higher get a complimentary book. So if you're just commended, which is a huge achievement in itself, you have to basically go and pay for your own book, which frankly I think is scandalous, and they really should have changed that an awful long time ago. So Andy's now going to get sent a book and neither of his images are in it, which is astonishing, to be honest. Now, there's another case that has since come off the back of my blog going out and is even more bizarre as well. There was a lady that got in touch with me on Twitter to say that a lady at her camera club had some issues with emails, and hadn't she been commended in the black and white category. So she'd seen my blog, got on the phone to a friend at the camera club and said, you might want to go and check the website because there's a few issues that people are having with this competition. You might want to go and check again. And lo and behold, her image is there on the website as a highly commended image in the black and white category, which is bizarre because she's now since been in touch with the competition to ask, is this correct? And they've told her it's not correct, it's actually an error. So I don't know what they're doing there. It feels like they're almost digging themselves a hole, but she's now not clear if she's been commended or not, even though it's on the website. There's other instances which I won't go into. I mean, there's 3 off the top of my head, mine and these other 2. There are other instances where there's been cock-ups, and frankly, it's not good enough. So where's this going to all end up? Well, I don't know, to be honest. I would hope that some of the things that have been flagged up over this will affect positive change in some way. You've only got to look at the reaction that blog got on Twitter to see just how many people are pissed off over this. The amount of money that's being made in this competition and the amount of money that people are forking over to enter it, you expect a level of care and professionalism which sadly just hasn't happened at all. And I think that's really poor, to be honest with you. There's a lady called Carmen Norman who replied to the Twitter thread, a friend of mine who's based in the Lake District as well. And she made a really good point over this that I'd kind of overlooked, is the artistic side of all this. We as photographers, when we're putting in images into these competitions, those images are the very best that we've got. or we think they are anyway. There's no telling just how much time, effort, dedication and experiences are wrapped up in those images. So much has gone into them that when you enter them into a competition like that, you expect that the people on the other end are going to treat them with that level of care and respect that they deserve. And as I was saying there, that simply hasn't happened this year and feels like it hasn't happened for a while. Now, I've not really talked about judging because I've tried to just stick to the facts here, and judging, no matter what competition you're in, is always going to be subjective, and most judging processes, one way or another, are going to have flaws. Landscape Photography of the Year is no different. Now, in recent years, it feels like some of that's even gone by the wayside. Now, I'll flag up a couple of examples here where we've got repeat images being awarded year on year on year, and it's almost as if this competition isn't doing any kind of self-audit on the images. If I was running this competition, the first thing I'd be doing is looking at the images that we awarded the year previous and going, right, they can't get in this book this year because we've already awarded them. That's kind of common sense, you'd think. But this kind of thing has been happening for the last 5 or 6 years, where images are just, it feels like the competition has veered away from the ethos of just going out and celebrating the landscape and just reverting to just places, just go to this place, take this shot, and there's a good chance you'll probably get in the book with it. I don't agree with that at all. Now, I don't want to go down the wormhole of judging because, as I say, it is a subjective thing. But I think as an entrant, you should expect that they're at least auditing the images that they've used previously. And that appears to me like it isn't happening. So where am I going with this? Well, I guess my advice to you as a potential competition entrant is you really need to ask yourself, what do you want to get out of the process? Because for me, I don't think photography competitions have the same level of influence and importance that they used to. And now you can want to enter a competition for the kudos of getting the awards, getting in a book, the notoriety of it, and also just to kind of get a feel for where your work is and what level you're at. Those things are perfectly valid, and I certainly wouldn't knock people for doing that. And certainly when I started, I think there were motivations for me as well. But I do think now they don't have the same level of influence as they used to. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you on YouTube if that wasn't the case, because I've talked about this in the past with YouTube, in that I think for newer audiences coming into landscape photography, they don't really care about things like Landscape Photography of the Year that much. These things used to be, and well, still are, institutions in the community, and they held a lot of influence. And years ago, that competition used to have the ability to almost shape someone's career path if they wanted to go into landscape photography full time. They don't really do that anymore. You've only got to look at the relatively little excitement around this year's competition to see that really I don't think people care that much anymore. And that's just the way of the world. And this competition, I don't feel has evolved much, to be honest. It feels like it's very out of touch. You've only got to look at the type of images that they pick in this competition to see that, I think. So if you're thinking of entering competitions, I do think it's important to do some due diligence. The most important thing, I think, is a competition must demonstrate some transparency, not only with the judging process, but also where your funds are going. I think having a good ethos is absolutely key there. And it's, well, I will give a plug to these lot because they're doing an absolutely fantastic job. The Natural Landscape Photography Awards, it's in its 3rd year now. I won one of the awards in it last year, and I just missed out on getting through the final stages of it this year. But I'll just show you on the screen here that they're fully transparent with their, not only the money that goes back into prizes, but also the judging process. You can see how your images have been rated past a certain point, which is really helpful because it gives you a good idea of, you know, are you seeing something in your images that perhaps judges aren't? Now, as I said before, there's a subjective element to that you have to take with a grain of salt, but it is helpful. It's nice to know that your images are getting full consideration. So yeah, a quick plug for them. But transparency is absolutely key. I think those things are really important. I think you really need to have that trust that a competition isn't just trying to make money off you. Now, I think you can accept an element of competitions making a bit of a profit, because obviously they need to make money to keep going. But there's a balance to be struck there. And I think with UK Landscape Photography of the Year, it feels very much like a cash grab at the moment. And they've lost the faith of an awful lot of the hardcore leading landscape photographers in this country, which is a real shame. I certainly won't be entering that competition in the near future unless major things change with it. And I know, talking to a lot of other photographers, they've stopped entering it as well. So it's a real shame, and I hope some of what I've said here can be used positively, and they can make sure that these things don't happen in the future. I don't hold out much hope for that, to be honest, from what I've seen so far. But I guess for you as a potential competition entrant, or if you enter competitions already, take them with a grain of salt. Ultimately, it is a judge's opinion. It's a subjective thing. And, you know, without wanting to parrot too many cliches here, you do just have to sort of go out and please yourself with your photography. If you feel like your photography is improving and you're producing the kind of images that you want to produce, then maybe photography competitions aren't for you. They're certainly not the be-all and end-all anyway. But I'll end this here, because I could probably go on all night about this. Not probably the most entertaining video, but I think pertinent to put it out, and hopefully some good will come of not only mine but other people's misfortune this year in UK Landscape Photography of the Year. And I hope, as I say, some of these things will be taken on board. But right, I'm going to get back to the house and get some tea, because it's getting a bit nippy. Next video hopefully will be from Glen Affric. I'm heading up there on Thursday to, fingers crossed, we get a bit of snow. And it does look pretty promising for a cold front coming in. So I hope you watching this can get out and do some photography in the snow if it lands as well. And yeah, hopefully we'll get a proper winter this year. So anyway, take care, and I'll see you on the next one.